For decades, our education system has largely focused on one pathway: graduate high school, go to college, and hope it leads to a career. But the reality is that the world of work has changed dramatically, and many students graduate without a clear direction, practical skills, or an understanding of the opportunities available to them. Capital College and Career Academy was created to address that gap. Today's guest is Kevin Dobson, the founder and director of Capital College and Career Academy, an innovative public charter high school in Sacramento that is rethinking how we prepare young people for the future. Kevin and his team are building a model where students don't have to choose between college and career. They can pursue both. At CCCA, students engage in hands-on learning, take real college courses while still in high school, and even participate in internships with industry professionals. The goal is simple but powerful. When students graduate, they are not just leaving with a diploma, they leave with experience, skills, and a clear path forward. The work Kevin is doing is incredibly important, especially at a time when many young people feel uncertain about their future and when industries across the country are struggling to find skilled workers. So by connecting education with real-world careers, programs like Capital College and Career Academy are helping students discover their interests, develop meaningful skills, and step into adulthood with confidence and opportunity. In this conversation, we talk about Kevin's journey as an educator, why the traditional education model needs to evolve, and how initiatives like CCCA are creating new pathways for students to succeed in both college and the workforce. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on. It's an honor for me. I know when I first heard about you and what you started, I was really intrigued because I'm kind of passionate about education as well, and I know that our education system is not perfect at the way it prepares students for the real life.
Yep.
So I applaud you for what you're doing, the fact that you founded Capital College and Career Academy. Maybe for those people who have no idea what CCCA is, briefly talk about how did you come to this name, to this organization, how it all evolved.
Sure. Capital College Career Academy is a free public charter high school. We're now in our third year of operation. And how we landed on the name and was, I think, kind of grows from my founding of the school and my experience in the educational system. And so similar to what you said in that, I think so often schools are not adequately preparing a young person for the world that they're going to be living in and really for their future. Wanted to create was something that focuses on both college and career and puts an equal weight on both. Unfortunately, I think in education, the common narrative is that it is, you have to go to college. And if a student doesn't go to college, they've in some way failed. And the reality is that 30% of California ninth graders, and it's remained pretty consistent for a very, very long time, are going to actually end up in getting a college degree. And so, again, not to talk down on college, I've got 3 college degrees myself, but it just felt like there's got to be a better way to do education. Education should be a time of exploration and putting equal weight on both college and career. I'm also from the East Coast originally, and so I'm familiar with the VOTEC system, where it's a whole school built around one career pathway, like maybe a dental hygienist or automotive. But I found even with those models, frustration because if you wanted to go to a 4-year university, you were equally hamstrung in the sense that you had to go to a community college to get the prerequisites to be able to get to a 4-year. And so it was, how do we do career education? How do we do really rigorous and high-level learning that's hands-on and prepare students ultimately for what they want to do? And how do we give them a pathway where they're informed of what they want to do based on their own experiences?
So, what were some of the things that you noticed about the education system having that experience before you founded CCCA that you said, you know what, I want to fix this. I want to try to address this.
Yeah, I think 2 things really stand out in my mind. First of all, I live very close to the school campus in North Sacramento, and had a group of young people that we were working with, coaching Little League baseball, and it started when they were in second, third grade, and went with them all the way up until they were ready to go into high school. And I think just hearing their stories and really getting to know them at a deeper level, I think oftentimes education. You have these large high schools or large middle schools, and they are built to be efficient. And in that model, you really don't get to know students at a deeper level and get to know their families. And I think one thing that oftentimes private or charter schools may do well is that they are smaller, and they are built typically by the community. And in that structure, you really get to know students at a deeper level and be able to better support them and really understand what is their needs, and where do they want to go, and how do we get you from point A to point B. So I think one frustration was just within the students that I was mentoring, hearing about their school experiences. And again, this is not a fault or placing blame on the school systems, but when you have 2,000 kids, you are designed to be efficient. You can't get to know every student at a deeper level, and so that was one. And then the other was just myself. When I was a high school teacher, eventually became a high school administrator, but when I was a high school teacher, I was struck by I taught social sciences and social studies, and I would teach a senior government and econ class. And in economics, we do this whole cost of living unit, have students develop a resume, find jobs at that time on Craigslist, and pick a high, medium, and low, and have kids apply. And then from that, they would have a monthly income. And okay, how are you going to make things work? And I always remember we'd walk across the street to this apartment complex, and kids, I think, before walking over would often have this notation of like, oh, that's pretty cheap, $1,000, 600 square feet. Like, I'm gonna live there with 4 or 5 of my friends, and we go in there like, this is 600 feet. Like, oh my goodness. So as I was doing the resumes with students, and as I would see them matriculate into post high school life, was frustrated that here's these amazing, incredible, super talented, super creative young people, but they had nothing to put on their resume outside of what the one thing we required them to do as part of a senior project. And they really had no clue on what to do next. Everybody told them to go to college, and the kids that went to college are like, why am I here, right? And in many cases, racking up debt. Maybe the students that had gotten a job at a fast food restaurant, and then they continue that, but that's not enough to really make a living and be able
Hmm.
to sustain yourself. And so I was just frustrated because it felt like myself being in that system was failing these students in the fact that we weren't adequately preparing them for the real world. They didn't have a clear enough sense of what they wanted to do because they hadn't really experienced the real world in any authentic way while they were in all their 12 years of
Mm.
schooling.
It's interesting. You said you were frustrated, but a lot of people get frustrated. In some ways, I look at that and I'm frustrated, but you chose to do something about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, so you are a director
Hmm.
and founder. It's
Correct.
like in business world, it's a founder and CEO.
Yeah.
Okay. And typically the role and the responsibility for a CEO is to increase revenue, increase profit. Um, but when I talk to you, I sense that there's a different motivation here. There's more of a motivation of purpose.
For sure.
Um, so how do you think it would be different? Let's say if you were to, run this organization from a standpoint of a CEO that is looking at bottom line numbers,
Hmm.
profits, revenues, but you're doing something different.
Yeah. I mean, uh, there's a lot there that I think first and foremost, but and I think I could speak for almost every educator. You get into this profession because you love what you're doing. You feel like you're making a difference every day, and so there's just I think just purpose built in. With that being said, I think I am fascinated. I used to be a manager at a hotel, a bar, restaurant industry, and management in and of itself, I think is something that is just really fascinating to me. There's a lot of research out there uh, how difficult it is oftentimes to go from being a founder, and that's more of an ideological role, and getting supporters and inspiring people, to then the implementation side. I was fortunate that I was a high school principal before becoming the founder of this school,
Mm.
so I already had I think a well-versed understanding of the ins and outs of what it is like to be a school site leader. But frankly, I think that just pales in comparison with the role of, kind of where I'm at right now, in that I'm doing the human resources, I'm doing accounts payable, I'm doing all facility projects, facility acquisition. I think being a site administrator in of itself is just one of it is one of the most challenging managerial roles, because you have staff, you have parents, you have students, you have to move everybody in a same direction. But oftentimes they don't all have the same interest at
Mm-hmm.
heart, and so it's a great challenge. I am really interested in just like adult learning theory and what motivates adults, and we have some things built into the school as a brand new school and a new organization that I think is motivating in of itself. You get to be a part of something, you get to build something. So often, and I'll just say, even in school leadership, you're trying to change something and going in a direction, and starting something brand new as a school. You have this incredible responsibility, incredible opportunity to start something in a direction that you wanted to go, and really live up to the promises that you made
Mm-hmm.
as that original founder of the organization.
Wow. Yeah, earlier you mentioned that your approach is to get to know the students on a personal level more than what is available in public schools. How do you encourage that?
I love, like, even the first year that we opened, I taught a class, and I was like, what am I doing teaching a class? I got so much on my plate, but it was just so good to be in the classroom and have kids exploring challenges in the community, and ultimately came up with solutions, presented at city council, did a fundraiser on our campus. So, like, it was really, I love putting students in places where they can make a tangible difference, and their voice is heard. And so with my role, it is very easy to just be in my office and work behind the desk and do all the paperwork and all the emails. But why I come to work every day is just be around students and be out there, and really model the expectations for staff as well. But I think I mentioned this when you're on our site. We've taken the approach of, we're going to hire really good people that care about young people and care about kids and families in our community, and we can teach you how to teach from there. And that seems to be a pretty good guiding principle thus far. You get good people that care in the building, and then we can teach you the technical pieces, after that. If you
Wow.
don't have that first part, I don't know how you can do this job and be in education. You're just going to get burnt out. You're going to get frustrated. And yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like I heard some guy said, he was a business owner. He said, "I hire for attitude, not for skill. We
Yeah.
can teach you the skill." It's
Well,
like,
when we started the school, it was funny. I mean, maybe digressing a little bit, but with this relationship with construction trades, and really using that as an avenue into a career, as an avenue into career learning. In the very beginning, I mean, we're going back to like 2019, we had so many conversations with folks of, what are the skills, what are the certificates that you need, or what would you like to see? And everybody said, none of that matters. Show up on time, communicate, work hard. If they could do those three things when they leave your building, they will be so far ahead of everybody else. We'll teach them how to work. We'll teach them the technical skills, but it's those three things.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you had this idea, you started working on it. What were some of the first challenges that you had to overcome?
How much time do you have? Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think I went into it a little naively. Just, yeah, I had this idea, and it's like, I don't know where this is going to go. Is it going to turn into a school? Like, I just thought there was a better way to do education, and so it started with the first challenge of, okay, if we're really going to be serious, we need to put a board of directors together. And I continue to be amazed by the industry partners and community members that have joined our board. I mean, you're talking the leaders of some of the largest general contractors in the region, leaders within the building trade, state agencies. Like, we had the chief of construction of Caltrans, the president of Roblin, president of McCarthy Building Companies. We've had just incredible individuals. One of our first board members, Linda Farley, is the president of Northern California, Heart of Central California Girl Scouts. And so to have somebody on the board when it was just an idea, and Jordan Blair, the president of the Construction Industry Education Foundation at the time, those two individuals to just support this thought and idea that we had. I think that was a challenge. Was just getting people to buy into the vision originally from industry and community perspective, and then you're pushing that little ball of snow and it gets bigger and bigger, and then finally, I think there was enough folks on the board that people were suddenly wanting to join the board because of the relationships that they would have.
Mm.
Um, I'm familiar with other boards where people have to pay thousands of dollars to be in a room with that person on a month-to-month basis. And so just fortunate that people at that level had a similar belief and mission, like supporting the mission of the school and the organization. So once we, and I mean, this doesn't just happen in this, nice linear fashion. There's roadblocks along the way. But then it was, figuring out who is our college partner going to be, what is the school going to look like, and then ultimately getting the charter approved. Because we have this relationship with construction, there's politics around charter schools. There's then all these politics around construction, non-union, union construction companies, and you have the local politics of the community. So I think it was incredible just how political the process was. Somebody told me, when I was reflecting on how political and how difficult it was, they had shared, yeah, but if you don't get through the politics, you can never do the work that you want to do to support students. And so I think that was something that surprised me, but at the same time, I think a critical piece to be able to navigate through to get to where we're at.
Was there any point you said, you know what, maybe this is not something I want to take on?
You mentioned about the frustration in the beginning, and lots of people are frustrated and stuff. But I don't know. I always, I have a sports background. I played football in college. I've always it pisses me off when people say you can't do something. And there's been so many moments in the formation of the school where it's like, how are we going to get past this obstacle? How is this going to happen? I see no other path forward. And somehow, some way, divine intervention, the partners that we had, we were able to continue moving it forward. And sometimes, like I said, it was really, really difficult. But I don't think there was any moment where I said, all right, I'm just going to give up. It's just more motivation to move things forward.
Was there someone really close to you who constantly was supporting you throughout the whole process?
I mean, I have my, my family, my wife, my started with my son and my stepson, and then we now have a daughter. But just a lot of tireless late nights. As my wife and I have kind of opposite schedules, and so putting my son, it was working as late as I could, spend time with him, put him to bed, and then work as late as I could, and then go in and still be, a principal and still be present and try to do that job. I mean, there was lots of moments where there's a lot of stress and a lot of late nights and a lot of just how are we going to figure it out? But no one sees those things. You see kind of the outcomes, but I think anybody that has their own business or has pushed an initiative forward, that probably resonates with. And I don't know. I mean, it's the thing, and it goes back to what you shared about the mission, or purpose driven. I just feel like in education and being in a school, I have the greatest job in the world. Every day I feel like I go in there and I'm making a difference. I could tell you countless stories of things that has happened with students and things that they've said and their families have said. So I mean, it's incredible, just the work that we're able to do every day. And I feel incredibly fortunate to be able to do that.
So you actually, when you wake up, you look forward to the day.
Oh, I love going there. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the hardest thing for me, honestly, is just that I do have 2 young kids. My son's now 8, and he started this when, he was basically a baby, 1 year old, less than a year old. And so I've learned to really enjoy the time with my daughter as she's a baby, because I think the hardest thing is a lot of late nights and just missing that time, with my kids, and just how fast kids grow up and those moments you don't get back. So I try to bring them into a lot of the programs and a lot of the school work that I do. If we do a community event, they'll be with me all the time. Or I think my son can give a tour of the school probably better than me. And if he has a day off, he dresses up in a shirt and tie and has his walkie-talkie, he'll walk around. So,
That's cool.
you try to bring them in. But I think Yeah, I love going to work. The hours fly by, and yeah, certainly no regrets on that end at all.
So how was the time, very, very weird time around COVID?
Mm.
What
Yeah, so I mean, at that time, we were still in our infancy. It was still an idea. We had just started writing. I had started writing the charter petition, and because I was a school administrator, honestly, COVID was kind of a blessing for our organization because the school that I was at, that I was leading, we had done unintentionally some changes with our schedule and structure, and pushed some initiatives early that year. That when COVID hit and we went to remote learning, we never changed our bell schedule. We never changed our meeting format, or we just kept kind of rolling. And we had touch points. We had advisors, so every advisor reached out to students. And uh, there's some CD document somewhere where it shows we were like a model standard of what it should look like in terms of
Oh,
COVID
wow.
response. All that to say, though, as a high school administrator, so much of your time is taken with like student initiatives, student discipline issues. And so, I was at work every day. I never stopped working. I was the only one on campus. And that allowed me to just really kind of dive into the fundraising, the partnerships, the charter petition that we wrote. And so COVID was an opportunity where instead of slowing down or taking time off, it was almost like, high speed forward, moving forward. So, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So for your organization, what does success look like? Is it influence, growth,
Sure.
something else?
I mean, I think it's within our mission. It's that within 6 months of graduation, students are going to be enrolled in a post-secondary institution, whether that be a certified apprenticeship, community college, or university, or they're going to be gainfully employed. So we're not really going to know that success until we get our first graduating class, and then look, what are students doing 6 months after they've left this place? I think long-term organizationally, we would love to expand. There's a case to be made as we see on average, students are entering high school at a fifth grade level, in some cases a fourth grade level in math and reading. That's on average for a whole group of students. And so we certainly feel, as we look at the educational outcomes and the student data we're seeing already, that if we could start with students earlier and develop that culture and the learning practices and hands-on learning at an earlier age, I think we can have an even bigger outcome. So I think organizationally, we'd like to eventually expand to the pre-K to 12 model. So right now, we're just 9-12. So being able to expand so it's a full, pre-K 12 school.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I'm still on the fence. I do, and we have as an organization consistently talked about growth and duplication in multiple sites. I'm torn just in the sense that I do feel like a school should really represent the community in which they serve, and so I just think if we were to make another site elsewhere, we would really want to just be intentional that we're serving the community. It's a community-driven initiative, not just us coming into a community and saying like, "Hey, here's how you do things."
Mm,
So yeah.
that's really interesting. Yeah. So can you share maybe a story of where um, what you guys are doing really impacted someone or or the community where the school's at?
I'll give maybe an individual and then the community. So on the community side, we took a property that had been vacant since 2008. In total, it was about a $13 million project, completely rehabilitated essentially an entire city block in North Sacramento. And North Sacramento historically has been underinvested. There's significant challenges with infrastructure. The project labor agreement, I mean, say what you will with those. I know that is a hot topic for many folks, but that ensured funding stayed there within the community. I mean, just seeing the amount of construction workers on any given day, and the engineers and the architects that were there, and then they're frequenting businesses up and down the Del Paso Boulevard corridor. Uh, I mean, it took a blighted city block and turned it into an innovative education hub. And through the construction process, was a definite boost to local businesses. And,
Mm-hmm.
as we continue to grow, our students, our families, our teachers frequent those businesses around the campus. So, I would love to see the tangible numbers around that, but I know for a fact we've made a considerable impact just there, right around our campus. And then on the student side, I mean, I don't. I there's so many student stories that I could share. I think so often, as you look at student outcomes and student data, it's, tell me about the kid that has, all the college classes, or tell me the kid that's moved into a paid internship. And that's the things that shows up. It's the kids that are scoring at grade level, or that has made significant academic growth and is now at grade level. And that's the things that show up on a school dashboard. But, for me, I think of, there's one student in particular. She had come to us, had a really, really rough middle school experience. She had actually was in juvenile hall, evidently had stabbed somebody when she was a middle school student, and when she came on campus, was very angry and did not really engage in any way, and was able to really get to know her and understand that as you peel back those layers, here was a student, a young student, ninth grader, 14 years old, that everybody had just kind of cast away and is this like problem child, but had significant traumas in her life. Like really significant things had happened, and ultimately like found out that she was just terrified to go into a classroom, and had some really severe anxiety, and there was some underlying health things that had not been discovered, which to me, you're a ninth grader in high school. That's far too late to discover these things. It's like there's a example of our system failing a young person, and instead of really trying to figure out what's going on, has just kind of pushed the student out of the system. She ended up transferring as at the end of her sophomore year, and trying to like do some credit recovery. But to see her and the growth that she had made, and she'd come in my office and say, "Hey, look, Mr. Dobson, I made this cat that I cut out of wood, and I still got it on my desk." It's just it still wasn't perfect when she left, but the amount of growth from when she was there at day one to the end of her second year on our campus, that's something that you don't see. She still struggled with credit. She was still had growth to make, but again, I mean, like, just it was amazing to see where she was at, and kind of how the system treated her, and where she had gotten to. So a lot of stories like that, but that was one that just really stood out to me.
Wow, that's a great story.
And
Thank
I
you for
think,
sharing.
yeah, thank you. I would just say, I mean, I think the other challenge being in a high school is when students struggle academically, by the time they get to high school, oftentimes the academic gap widens significantly in the middle school years. And so if I referenced the on average students at a fourth grade level earlier, if a student's at a fourth grade level, that means they have not had success in school in a really, really, really long time. And so then the challenge is we need to work with a student in 4 years and get them to a level where they can take advantage of the college, the career pathways that are available to them. And that's difficult because you're a teenager. The last thing you want to do is look like you don't know the answer, or like that you're
Yeah.
not smart in some way. And so there's a lot of trust that has to happen, and there's I think trying to get a teenager to lower their guard, and lean into the supports that we're offering. And so, yeah, I think that's the challenge for students that are really below, but it requires one-on-one attention, support, getting to know the students, the things that I talked about
Mm.
earlier.
When you mentioned the someone having an education of lower grade when they're already in high school, um, and I'm kind of looking because sometimes I check like statistics, for example, like in America, where are we on academics, compared to other countries, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I find myself asking this question: what happened that, and I believe that America is the greatest country in the world. Like, what happened that in the best country in the world, our education system is such that we're like in some areas number 33, in
Yeah.
others 18, and
Yeah.
all that? Like, what is going on? Why do you think this is happening in America?
I mean, I think there's such a variety of reasons and things that impact schools. I mean, one, resources and funding. You can also look at the statistics around amount of funding in schools and the correlation to the amount of money spent on prisons. And less you spend on schools, the more you spend on prisons. And I think the culture around education is one challenge, but schools are asked to do more and more. We provide the food, we provide mental health services, we provide the social services for students, and so a lot is asked of schools. And I think, our approach has just been no one can do it by themselves. It really takes a village. And so how do we align with strategic partnerships that can provide the wraparound services for students and families and provide additional support? So I think, there's a whole lot on that side that has an impact on those educational outcomes. You still continue to look at like the disproportionality around areas of poverty compared to other areas, and why is that, and how that has a trickle down effect to schools. It is hard to get a single parent to come and be fully engaged and present if they're living paycheck to paycheck, working 2, 3 jobs. Now, is that the parent's fault? No. Poverty plays a role. And then I would just say the other one is certainly why we believe we exist is people continue to do education in the same way they've done it for the past 100 years. Education is largely unchanged. And you look at the evolution of technology, the kids are so different. I mean, even in my 15-year career in education, kids have changed so dramatically. And I don't think people realize with the evolution and the onset of technology, I mean, kids literally from the moment they're born now have an iPad right in front of them, and the consequences that has on attention span and connectivity. And so school, it cannot look like what it did 100 years ago and expect the same outcomes. There needs to be innovation. And unfortunately, when you think of education, you don't think of innovation. You don't think of nimbleness and responsiveness to market. And so that's where I think that there is an important role that charters can play, and to do something differently, to see if it can solve some of those challenges. I was fascinated. I never was really into the politics. I had worked at charters for a vast majority of my career, but that wasn't because I like sought them out. It was just they had an opening. It was a good mutual fit, and that's where I worked, or I felt like I could get more professional development at the schools that I worked at. But through this process, really getting to understand the history of charters and what they are. I mean, we are a free public high school, but they were really started in the early 90s. The idea was that you're going to cut through all the red tape, all the bureaucracy, and really be an incubator for innovation. And ultimately, that traditional school down the street is going to adopt that because it worked. And then the charter no longer would exist because that traditional school down the street has all the resources and the funding. And really, the idea was to be an incubator. And, here we are 30 some years later, and there's this vast divide. And again, far too many schools and education systems continue to do things in this traditional way when the world has changed so much. And particularly with the advent of AI, I mean, it's going to continue to change.
Yeah. I recently had Dr. Daniel Binus. He's a local Auburn psychiatrist. He has this facility that's called the Beautiful Minds Medical. And I mean, they treat a lot of different, people with different issues and problems with mental and stuff. And he talks about the study that they did when like TVs were brought into families' homes, and kind of like looking at the children's attention span, their development. And when you say that, as soon as the kid is born, whatever, they put in an iPad. I don't know how you look at it, but to me, that's just crazy, because here's what I see. Okay, if the child was growing up since like they were one, and they're constantly being shown flashes of like all this, fast, super fast, right? Like before, Dr. Daniel Biden said before, when you look at the movies that were made like in the 40s, 50s, like they were very slow. There was a story, but now it's like everything is just flashing. So when kids get introduced to that so early, how can they go to school and sit and listen to this boring teacher?
Yeah. I mean, I saw a study, it's been some years now, but it's funny because I think this might even been when I was in the classroom. So it was before I even became a principal, but like I see it more and more now. And the study looked at social media, and it looked at how social media lowers empathy within people. And I see it all the time with kids where they will say things about people or directed towards people that they would never say in person. And oftentimes, that if there is a conflict on our campus, it stems from something on social media that happens outside of school hours.
Wow.
And we bring them together. And when you have to talk to somebody and, hey, we're going to get to the bottom of why did you say that? Well, they were looking at me funny. Okay. Well, how would you feel if somebody did that? It is very easy to type something, and it's different than doing something to somebody else. I mean, there's like neurological reasoning. Mirror neurons are the things that, when you see somebody get an injury and you're like, ooh, that hurt. Like, they are not triggered by social media or online communication. And so it lowers the empathy in people. It's really, really fascinating. And again, I see that all the time. And, to the point on the iPads and how young people are now being brought up and how they play is all online. And, they say there's, critical thinking and communication that can still occur. But if you look at mammals, every mammal, like, play is such an important part in the development of taking risk and knowing boundaries. And, for so many people, that's just gone out the window. Their kids aren't playing outside, or if they are playing, they're so closely monitored by their parents. And I mean, that has repercussions for young people as they age and mature.
Yeah, how much do you think the type of food that most kids eat in public schools? Like, I recently saw this video where there was this school, I forgot where it was, but they completely shifted
Yeah,
to like whole foods
yeah,
and protein, high protein, like
yeah,
really good food and
yeah.
stuff, and they saw huge improvements in the students.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, food's critical. I mean, somebody who, like, I work out, 4 or 5 times a week. Yeah, I certainly know the value of it. And, I know within like the school guidelines, we have vended meal services, and
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's a pretty good product, but yeah, like, it's not like a home cooked meal, right? And with,
Mm-hmm.
with all those, but I mean, that's a whole nother thing. My gosh, the things teenagers eat. It's like hot Takis at 7:30 in the morning. It's like, what are you doing? What, a soda to chase it down? It's like, oh my goodness, how are you ready to learn for the day? But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I know, like, I looked at the United States ranking. It says number 18 in average PISA
Mm-hmm.
score,
Mm-hmm.
math, science, and reading, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a graph I can show you after
Mm-hmm.
this. But when I was thinking about this, we're talking about math, science, okay, reading, but a lot of people, they say they read, but they listen to either a podcast or audiobook. And with AI right now, like, does it really matter, do you think, for the future, like these scores?
Yeah. I've had a number of these, like, theoretical discussions on this, but I mean, it's becoming a reality. It's not theory. Uh, I, I I don't know. I do think that there is a foundational level of reading. AI continues to have errors, and, your ability to synthesize that. I still do think that there is and will continue to be a need for foundational writing skills, basic grammar, being able to write, a thought, and being able to, fully flesh out, maybe a math equation. And I, we see that all the time within building trades class. I think that's a place where kids learn that math actually matters. Wow, if I don't know my fractions, that wall is not straight. That angle's not level. So, what I would say though is with AI and the increase in technology, what I do think is more important and will become more important is the ability to critically think, to synthesize data from a variety of sources, and to create an opinion that is yours based on fact and not just based on, your emotions. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
critical to us as a democracy, being able to critically think. And I mean, look at these AI images that are out there, and how quickly people like, oh, that's got to be real, and formulate an opinion and a reaction based on that. I don't know. It's near and dear to my heart. As a former history teacher, we always would talk about checking sources and how do you know that's valid. I had a student come in during the Obama administration, and I'll never forget this. And it was such a great way to get students to think about this. Is we were in kind of a lower income area, and a lot of the kids had their own jobs, and they were right at that age where they were starting to drive. And this kid says, "Hey, Mr. Dobson, did you hear about this? President Obama's giving free cars to everybody. Everybody on welfare gets a free car. What is going on? Like, I don't get a free car." And he was like really mad. And I said, "Really? Tell me about, like, show me the article." And he showed it, and it was clear that it was not a real article. But I put that up as a warm up for the kids, and everybody responded and had really passionate debates. And not one person recognized that that wasn't a real article. And it's like, hey guys, the lesson here was not actually about your response to the article. It's about, how are we evaluating sources and being able to make a
Oh,
decision? So yeah, I just, again, I think to the question, it's critical thinking, I think is so imperative, not just in schools and in life, but I mean for the safety and continuation of our democracy.
yeah, yeah. Speaking of I recently got so pissed off. I found this song on YouTube, and I started playing it, and it's a video with the
Mhm.
song, and the words, the music, like the passion on this guy's face. I'm like, oh my gosh, why haven't I heard this song before? Like it really like my like I could feel like I got emotional. And as I was watching that video, I started paying attention a little bit more, and I realized that it was not real. It was
Oh,
an
wow.
AI song.
It's crazy.
That guy that was singing, even though he looks like a real guy, he doesn't even exist.
Wow.
And they were
Wow.
showing like reactions of the America Got Talent,
Yeah.
like those judges. They're sitting there, they're getting like they're reacting to it, and
Yeah.
and they're like
Yeah.
crying and stuff. And then the audience, and it's just like they started showing that too much. So after that, I'm like, wait a minute, like
That's not even
there's this
real.
algorithm AI just tricked me,
That's crazy.
called
Yeah.
out this emotion in
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
of a song that's not even sung or made by a human.
Yeah. I mean, AI's here. I think there's incredible value in it, and at the same time, you see the negative effects of it, and I mean, it's scary, like the thing that you're talking about, and the repercussions that can have, particularly again going back to our democracy as a country, and how we're formulating our opinions is based on what we're seeing. But just at home, we were playing around with Google Gemini, had a side profile picture of both my kids, and I had a picture of my car, and I said, hey, combine these two images and have my kids working on a die-cast model of my car. And it was unbelievable that the AI didn't have any other picture of my kids, but it showed their front of their face. And you look at it, the fingers, the face, it's my kids. It is my kids, but it only took a profile. It was just crazy how it did that. I
Wow.
could show you. I mean, it's just like, oh my goodness. So if like that's my own kids, and if I looked at that, I would have thought, hey, that's a picture that mom took or somebody else. But if it can do that to your own kids, I mean, just it's
Wow.
crazy.
I'm reading one book right now, and the author writes about like the importance of focus
Hmm.
whenever you're doing something,
Yeah.
and if you want to achieve mastery,
Yeah.
you should be able to focus for a continuous, like prolonged time, not like do things like incremental
Yeah.
pieces. And I'm just thinking about like right now, like so many distractions, especially for students,
Yeah.
right? Like how do you think we move forward from here when like someone has is doing homework? And another question that I wanted to ask you is like the kids in your organization, the school, how do you guys monitor or police, I guess, I don't know, whether when they're doing their homework or
Mhm.
assignments, are they using AI?
Yeah, I mean, well, two things. One, I love the research and just it's in a lot of motivational speeches and things. But so many people quit, right? It gets hard and they quit, and it's like you give a little more effort, the impact you can go. And so I just know like so many times through the school and the school development. How easy would it have been to quit, but you push a little more, one step at a time, and that's how you're able to like move mountains essentially, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so on the school side, I think we are continuing to find ways to teach AI, to teach kids how to use AI. But at the same time, you're right. I mean, I think for many young people, even before AI with Google, I mean, you can find anything out on Google. Hey, how do you do this? Okay, just Google it. Like it's right there. Just Google it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think a lot of times for young people, they'll kind of take a path of least resistance, and it's like, all right, here's this math equation, put it in. And so teachers they have to teach differently to respond to that. I think warm ups are done by handwritten. Teachers know how a student writes. They put something in AI and they just turn it in. They know that's not their handwriting. They know that's not their authentic thoughts. Tell me more. What's this word mean? You use this word. What's that mean? So I
Mm-hmm.
think you can kind of parse through that, but our math teacher did something that I thought was really, really unique. Instead of find the answer, because you could just put the equation in, boom, there's
Yeah.
the answer.
Uh-huh.
He actually gave them the answer, and the assignment was to show the work to get that answer. And so then he was
Oh.
grading on the process, and I thought, what an amazing way to actually get students to think through. And I know it is something that we talk a lot. It spans, many classes, not even necessarily in the math and the English, but it is how do we celebrate the process, because we really feel like that's where the learning takes place. I think far too often in schools, it's like you either got it right or you failed. It's
Yes.
right or wrong.
Yes.
That's it. And what I think we would try to create at our school is a culture that really celebrates failure, quote unquote failure, as like these learning opportunities and part of the process of iteration. And how do you get feedback? How do you improve on that design? What else could you have done differently? And so when you approach school in that way, AI then just becomes maybe a tool that you can use. But again, you then lean on your critical thinking skills and this critical thinking skills of your peers to ideate and to grow and to develop something that's ultimately a more polished final project.
Yeah, I agree with that. So at the very beginning, you mentioned that part of what you guys do is help students kind of discover their passion and interest, right? I know some high school students, most of them have no idea what they want to do in life.
Yeah.
But how do you guys help them with that?
I would say they have no idea what they want to do in life, and school is not set up in a way to allow them to explore what they want to do. And that's been one of my perpetual frustrations with the K-12 system. You could say K to 16 system, because colleges aren't much better. It's just, we're going to teach you this information. We're going to give you that. You're going to take it and then do what you want with it. Figure it out later. That's not our responsibility. And I think, again, thinking about how schools can do better or do differently, if you have kids tackling authentic problems and you have them exploring and doing things with their hands, they are more vested in it because, I mean, of course, like you're designing something on your own. Think about that. I mean, here, go do this worksheet with these problems or help solve this problem and then present that solution to an authentic audience. Of course, there's going to be more buy-in over here. I think first and foremost, in all of our classes and class design, we want to set up structure where we are really putting the teacher's more of a facilitator of knowledge instead of just this disseminator of knowledge, and encouraging students to think and to challenge problems and come up with authentic solutions. Our school, in terms of how do we get young people to figure out what they want to do, our school is set up in a way, and this was intentional because it was one of my frustrations as a high school teacher. It's how do we give you a roadmap to what you want to do? So whether it's in our advisory class, essentially a homeroom, whether it is in our career exploration program, we have a 4-year graduation requirement around career education, whether it is in the college courses and the college sequence that we offer, students are experiencing things. They are going to the college campus. They're going to a place of work. They're getting real world certificates, an OSHA 10 CPR first aid certificate in their first semester on campus. We have more field trips than any other school I know. We bring more people to our campus to engage our students in different learning activities. And so when you do that, and then you ask students to reflect on those experiences, they're starting to say like, man, this is really interesting. I would never expect the student to maybe like this. But for example, we have a 15-year-old that came to us and said, I want to work in scaffolding. That's what I want to do. How many 15-year-olds do you know that know anything about scaffold or know what a scaffold is? And so he got a summer job and now he's getting paid and he's working 2 days a week with Skyline Scaffold. We have students that have gone to job shadows and said, I could do that work, but I don't really like a work environment where every day it's something different. I like kind of getting there, knowing my routine, completing this task. And so it's so neat to just hear students understanding. You would think every kid has a phone, every kid likes social media, like, oh man, social media marketing is going to be right up these kids' alley. And we've sent some students out and hearing them reflect on that experience, a young girl that was like, I thought this was really interesting. I thought I liked to do social media, but while this is a hobby and it'll continue to be a hobby, I wouldn't want to do that for a living. And here's X, Y, and Z of why I didn't want that. So, again, it's put students in opportunities and allow them to have experiences that, is authentic learning experience. Be in a world of work. Everybody, it just frustrates the hell out of me with the school as we were creating it. You can't have high schoolers in a work environment. It's like there's not some magic light switch that goes off at 18 that you're suddenly a different person than you were 3 months ago just because you've turned 18. I would argue that the maturity that takes place, whether that's students 14, 15, 16, 17, when they first enter into a world of work, a teenager at a workplace with 50 other adults, they're not going to act like a middle school or an elementary school student. They're going to rise to the occasion. It's about
Mm.
setting expectations. Students at a college campus, they're not going to be, screwing around like a middle school student or something. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to act like a college student because everybody else there is a college student. And then suddenly they're looking at themselves. They're like, I'm not a high school student. I'm a college student. You're right. You're in a college class.
Yeah, I think like at one point that we were, I don't know how many years ago that was, where, you know, doing work with your hands, physical work, considered like
Yeah.
low
Yeah.
class, right?
I mean, I think it still
Um,
has that perception.
but when you look at like right now what AI is doing,
Mm-hmm.
like did you hear about Jack Dorsey's company? I think it was called Block.
Mm.
They 1/4 or 1/3 of the company, couple thousand employees.
Wow.
They he laid just one day. He wrote this post
Yeah.
on X,
Yeah.
and he said, "Sorry, I wish I didn't have to come to this, but so he let go of this many, and it was because of AI, and then kind of like other people started kind of freaking out, like, oh wow, so this is where it's headed.
Yeah.
I look at because I build homes,
Yeah.
we're in real estate, and I look at some of the trades right now, like plumbing,
Yeah.
electrical,
Yeah. Blue collar jobs.
woodworking,
Yeah.
like all these jobs, right? Like I don't see that this is something that AI or robots are gonna take over tomorrow.
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about as we started the school, that I think I agree with that, and it's like the health profession, like those careers are just not going to go away, and as the workforce continues to age, the demand for them increase. But what I will say is, for so long in America and world history, right, you have blue and white collar jobs, and now with the advent of technology, I don't think that divide is as clear, even within those skilled trades. Really, it's this like blending of blue and white collar. It's a mix because even those skilled trade positions are becoming more and more technologically advanced, and so the ability for students to be able to navigate computers, like to be able to read plans, really get into the technical, be able to use different computer devices. I mean, that continues, I think, to expand, and ultimately it allows work to be more efficient and to be more precise, I would argue.
Yeah. So when you're looking at everything that's happening right now in the world, everything what you're doing, are you more optimistic about the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think so often, right? Like you are. I've said this for a long, long time. I think so often people are, they see the big headlines, right, and the national, international news, and the world can be a scary place, and there's a lot of chaos, even locally, right? And I think for far too many people, it formulates opinions in terms of like how they interact with people, and with the advent of technology, I think the world has become a more disconnected place. The community building and the relationships. But when you go to, for me, when I go to work every day and I see young people and I see the hope and the aspirations and the creativity, I tell people all the time. People ask like, how do we create better learning outcomes, or why is this student not doing better in school? No student wants to come to school and be a failure. No student wakes up in the morning and is like, all right, today we're going to get straight F's. I can't wait. I'm going to go be a problem in class. Like, nobody does that. And so every day I come to campus, it just gives me hope about the world and about the future. I tell students every year, no other time than ninth grade, first semester of ninth grade, because no matter how good or how bad elementary and middle school was, it's a fresh start. And if you take advantage of your 4 years of high school, if you work hard, education continues to be the one consistent driver that allows people to advance on the social ladder. And that's what I tell kids is, very early in the school, your first day, you've got every opportunity available to you. You want to go to Harvard one day? You want to go own your own business? I mean, all those things are still potentially possible, right? But nothing is as wide open as that beginning of ninth grade year. Like, anything is available. And then, all right, well, I didn't do the extra work on that assignment. Oh, I chose to hang out with my friends instead of doing homework. I got in trouble. I made a bad decision. Whatever it is, those opportunities begin to narrow. And it doesn't mean you can't still access them, but it becomes exponentially harder. And so I just love, out of all times in school, first semester, ninth grade, because you have every opportunity available to you in the world. And that's not to mitigate the importance of those younger grades. Obviously, you need to have an academic foundation and the skills to be able to be successful. But there's no other time like that, I think, in a student's educational career.
I heard from a few people that had, raised their kids to be very good kids,
Hmm.
you know, then they go off to college. They go to one of the, big colleges, and within a couple years, they can't recognize their kids. When they come back, they say stuff like, "Hey, mom, dad, do you guys even know that, we live on stolen land
Hmm.
and all this?" Like the whole like history of America is like completely just skewed. It's like, do you guys ever like in your organization have any kind of conversations like that? Where do you guys stand in that?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, this is something that I think is personal to me as a former history teacher. What and it goes back to the critical thinking discussion that we had. I think that what I tell students, particularly being a government teacher, everybody wants to know what party are you? Who are you voting on? What party are you? And what I would tell students is like that is irrelevant. What is important is one that we can have a thoughtful dialogue. So often I think that there is just this inability to have a conversation and have differing views. It is, one opposite to another, and we can't talk about it. And so we would create an environment where dialogue was encouraged. Tell me why you think that. Well, here's where I stand, and this is why. And having a authentic dialogue. And two, what I would tell the students, I don't care who you vote for, as long as it's informed and you can give tangible reasons that are meaningful to you of why you are making those decisions. And so my job, and I would say the jobs of our educators, is to just encourage students to be critical thinkers and to be able to ground that in their own belief system. It is not for us as a school to inform that belief system or create a belief system for students. It's ultimately, how do we just enable them to be critical thinkers and make their own decisions.
You guys kind of encourage that kind of culture where students can, with their teachers, have these discussions openly without like
Well,
what we're seeing on TV or on X,
yeah, yeah. I
where,
mean, I think one of the things we're really fortunate is again goes back to small and the sense of community and sense of belonging. I mean, I tell students all the time, and then I'll kind of get into it more, but we have this bucket of water, and that's our school culture. And so when you make the decision to write on the desk, you're taken from our bucket of water. And so you got to pour back in. So a lot of times there's a consequence. You're going to go help and do community service around our campus. You might pick weeds. You might help pick up trash around campus. We're going to require you to write a reflection on it. If you get an altercation with another student, you two are going to get right together, and then you're going to have to give back to the community to make our community a better place. And so that coupled with the diversity of our campus, and I'm not just talking about, what our students look like, but we have over 30 different zip codes represented. We have students whose families were going to go to St. Francis and had the means to pay, $25,000 a year for a high school experience. And we have refugees that have a single car with 6 kids that have just arrived in the country, and they're doing the best they can to make ends meet. We have single parents that are out of work and are really, really struggling and trying to figure it out. But, what is amazing is on our campus, and hopefully you got the sense when you toured, is, the kids get along. I mean, they sit next to each other, throw the ball with each other. I'm not saying every kid's best friends are skipping through the hallway, but, there's not cliques. And it's like, it doesn't matter what you look like, where you're from. There's this mutual respect on our campus, and our campus is a safe space where kids can just be themselves. I think so often, particularly at really large schools, when kids come into high school, they're trying to figure out who do they have to be, and all that we
Mm,
ask kids to be is just be yourself. You're
mm,
enough. Just be yourself, and you'll be fine here.
that's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap this up, where what are some of your like long-term goals? Maybe 5 to 10 years. Where do you see CCCA?
Well, for me personally, that's my retirement plan. I mean, again, I love the work that I'm doing. I can't imagine doing anything else. I think the more folks that we can continue to reach and impact, the better we're able to achieve our mission and our goals. I think within the next 5 to 10 years, there's some work that we'd like to do on our campus, just in terms of expanding some classroom spaces and just providing some more accessible facilities. Our campus meets our needs at full capacity, but I think like a multi-purpose room would be a great addition to our campus, with some different classroom spaces as we continue to expand our career pathways. In the short term, we've been exploring a sports academy. We have a really unique concept around that, which would include team building, where they're going out into nature, receiving really high level coaching, and really looking at like the business aspect of sports. And then on the dual enrollment side, kinesiology and sports medicine, and
Hmm.
really looking at expanding our sports schedule. Looking at adding an automotive program on our campus, which we think really ties together the entrepreneurship, the construction trades, the arts media that we have. I think automotive can be another one of those programs, just kind of a glue that holds things in. And yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I think we would really like to start to see the fruits of our labor as we start to have a couple graduating classes go through the program,
Mm-hmm.
and then really looking at how do we expand that and really address some of the gaps that we're seeing kids come into our school with. So, with adding some earlier grades so that we can really catch them up at an earlier age, and not catch them up, but prevent those gaps from occurring. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the last question, if someone watching this podcast, they feel like they're aligned with your mission, what are some of the practical steps that they can take, maybe to find out more or help?
Yeah, I think you're a great example because you did this. You heard about our school, and I would just encourage folks to reach out. We're the school is on LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram, with YouTube. So just being able to connect with us and our social media platforms, being able to share the work that we're doing. I'd encourage anybody to come out and really just tour because you can talk all day long, but I don't know. For me, just being there, being in the space, being with our students, that's what really gives me hope and continues to get me excited about the work that we're doing. So, yeah, our website is capcca.org, and that would be a great way also just to learn more of the work we're doing.
Awesome. And we'll post all your information in the video.
Thank you so much for having me out here and just having the discussion and sharing the work we're doing.
Thank you, Kevin. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
Yeah.
If you've made it this far and want to support what we're doing, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are committed to making each episode better than the last. If you like this video, here's another one for you to watch. I'll see you in the next one.